This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everyone. We have just had the great migration across quarantine of all the wildebeest going from the east to the west, but they are obviously now far happier in the western sector of quarantine. It clearly is a better place to be on this extremely rainy morning. My name is Lauren. I do have Khat on camera today. We are birthday twins. We are Libras. We are strong and balanced. And slightly stubborn, but that's okay. So unfortunately, we've already been hit with rain this morning, but it's cleared up for now, so we have got our rain roofs on. And I think we are in store for more rain, to be honest. I don't think that's it over, but maybe when that sun bursts through, it might clear it all up, and that's what I'm hoping for. It's really not so easy to drive around in the rain. But we have our animals for the start. Impala and wildebeest. What more could you ask for on this live safari? And it's also interactive, so please do talk to us. We especially need your questions when it is a rainy, gloomy day. Yes, send them all through. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or you can use @FC on the YouTube chat, or you can head over to the WildEarth website, and as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions there. I believe Miss Ribbon was on the dam cam last night. I'm coming for you, Ribbon. I have not seen that beautiful, darling hyena in so long. I didn't actually see her last stint. I'm just going to drive around today and see what I can come up with. I only got out for about an hour yesterday, so I still need to reacquaint myself with the reserve. And before I forget, everyone, kids, if you're watching, please do talk to us. Your questions are very often the best, but you just send them in through a different way, and you send them in via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Tell us your name, your age, and your favourite animal. I like to know everyone's favourite animal. It says a lot about you. Little signs of sort of spring stroke summer are already around. We've got millipedes in camp. We've got a massive spider in the sink. I didn't stay around too long to ID the species. I just know that it's a huge species. And you can just feel the energy in the air. Things are changing. So I've been very descriptive about the weather today, but let's take a better look.
Well, yes, raining in most places being the operative word is not ideal, but it is what it is. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got David. Hello, David.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Tristan.
It's been a while. Yes. Seems like you've had some good adventures on your way. Yes. All right. I'm going to be going to the west. We're going to try and see if our lions were successful in chasing the buffalo and to where the buffalo ended up, because I haven't seen any sign of them yet this side, and they should have popped out already somewhere where I am if they were mobile. So hopefully we can find an indication of where they went. It looks like they were here. So the buffalo were here, as you can see, by evidence on the ground of poo and the likes. So let's just drive very carefully here, because I want to see if maybe these lions are trailing them. Yesterday evening we left the lions. When I left, just after we closed the show, I stayed for a little bit, like 5 minutes, and they all crossed into Arethusa. We couldn't see them anymore. They were hunting inside Arethusa. So there was actually no sign of them. Well, I couldn't see them anymore, so we kind of carried on. But the general direction was to trail these buffaloes. So what I'm trying to do now is just to see if the lion tracks are in amongst the buffalo tracks. If they are, then we know the lions have been trying to hunt them. The problem is the roads are all quite hard from yesterday's rain, so the buffalo tracks are one thing because they have a nice hard-edged hoof, which gives a nice little crisp, clean appearance. Lions, on the other hand, have pads. Much harder to see their tracks in amongst all of this, but we'll try and see. Also, we have almost zero light to work with at the moment. It's dark and dingy, so tracks are not showing up beautifully. It's pretty much just the buffalo tracks that I can see. And they're not running or anything like that here, so they're not, it's just literally just them crossing the road here. Kyle, really depends on the seasons and weather at the time. So winter period, soft sand, track gets made, no rain, no wind, then it can be like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if nothing else walks there. If it's summertime, generally 2-3 days, and then the rain comes and washes them away. If it's winter with lots of wind, then like a week. Yeah. But it really depends. Most of the tracks that we see are on roads and on the lions are here following the buffalo. Really depends on roads and pathways. If it's busy pathways, busy roads, then the tracks last pretty much until a drive comes out or until things walk over it. So like in this instance, let's say lions had walked here and then the buffalo walk over the top of it, those tracks are all gone. So the amount of time the tracks can last for is always very, very variable. But yeah, sometimes 3-4 weeks in good conditions, and if it's in mud on the edge of water, it can be months that it can be there. All right, I'm going to carry on following these tracks, see where they go. It looks like they cut in after the buffalo, so we'll try to follow that. Hopefully we'll get lucky and find these guys.
We're finally getting a little bit more light to work with now, which is wonderful, I must say. When it's too dark, you can't see tracks, you can't see anything. But finally it's getting lighter and lighter, and I think the sun is going to burn through and we're actually going to have a nice day. Fingers crossed. Rain is very much needed here, but driving around in it is not so pleasant. I like to watch it when I'm inside and stay nice and warm. But from the rain we had yesterday, we will see very, very small minor changes in the landscape. I'm going to actually give you a lovely view. Can we give a view from here, Gert? We have a rain roof on, it makes things very tricky. But you can see the gorgeous landscapes, dry, it's barren, and those heavy, heavy grey clouds. The birds are starting to wake up as well, so let's just sit here for a moment and listen to the dawn chorus. Isn't it beautiful? Gloomy, but still beautiful. So we're going to keep bumbling and see what else we can find.
Good morning and welcome to WildEarth. We're live at Eco Training Pridelands and us starting our walk this morning from Kilikopi. We're going to work for ridges and then make our way down towards one of the dams a little bit later when temperatures start increasing and animals will hopefully come down for a drink. So my name is JP Leroux and behind the camera we've got BK. I just love it that the show has now started a little bit earlier because one of the things that I really enjoy is actually driving out when it's still dark and then go and position myself somewhere where it's still dark and listen to sounds that the early morning will provide. Quite often, those sounds will actually provide us ideas where we're going to go and look for specific animals. It might be the distant call of leopard or lion, or the breaking of branches of elephants, which we are looking for. This morning, strangely enough, a giraffe had broke a branch by accident. It's not normally an animal that are quite noisy, but he's now moved off somewhere into this thicket in front of us. I'm definitely going to try and see if we can walk him a little bit later and get a good view on him. So over the last few days, there's also been a lot more questions that viewers have had about a number of different subjects and aspects. You are more than welcome to ask, as these questions also guide us into the right direction, providing you interesting information about the environment. Good morning, Darcy, and welcome to the show. I'm also can't wait until everything greens up, but we are going to need a little bit more rain before things are going to start greening up. However, that little bit of moisture that was put in the atmosphere yesterday with the first little bit of rains that we had is already the start of everything. Every time that there's a little bit more moisture, a little bit more heat, we start seeing that more and more clouds will start building over the next few weeks. So for those of you that are interested in what drives the rain for us in this area of the country, and that's a southward movement of a number of high-pressure systems, as well as low-pressure systems that now move southward, and that's influenced by the intertropical convergence zone, which now starts moving southward and starts bringing rain to this part of the country. Quite often, a number of viewers are quite confused between the areas of Cape Town as well as where we are in the Lowveld region of South Africa, as that region is specifically a winter high rainfall area, where the Lowveld region of South Africa is a summer high rainfall area. Well, we sit around here and listen to what we can hear and see what is hopefully moving about. We're just going to cue you into the eco training promotional clip. That clip is worthwhile having a look at if you're especially interested in becoming a guide. We're also offering a very nice little discount to give you that little head start into your guiding career.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
It's getting lighter and brighter, thank goodness. It's very difficult to see tracks when it's been raining. I think Tristan mentioned that earlier, unless they're incredibly fresh. It's actually semi-easy for hyenas because they're very heavy walkers, and of course they have their claws out. Very heavy, so you normally see them, but for the lions and the leopards it's a lot more difficult. But I am going to take the Hyena Den Road, called Taxon's Road, not because I expect to find hyenas, but it's actually, or it used to be, shall I say, a really prominent game path. I had a lot of sightings, a lot of animals use this, but now, as you can see in front of me, it has turned into a road rather than a game path. I wouldn't really call this a game path anymore, but it started out as that. But naturally, with all the traffic going to the Hyena Den gets very popular. It can be so much fun sitting there that it's turned into a road now. But it takes you straight to Treehouse Dam. So it's a really good place to check for all sorts of animals. Lizzie, you will see a lot more of the hyenas when they have babies, absolutely, because they become sort of sedentary. They rely on a den, and naturally the cubs are born very, very altricial, so they'll be stashed in a den for a long time before they start to run around and cause chaos. So yes, that won't be for some time, but you will start to see more of the hyenas once they have cubs again. And to be honest, this is normal. It's sad that we don't see them, and I'll do my very, very best to try and find any hyena anywhere, but this is very normal. Once they leave the den, they're just not bound to that one place anymore. But we were very lucky last year. We caught Ribbon, and I am sure we caught her. She just had those cubs, literally. They're the smallest, youngest cubs I've ever seen. And then we managed to follow every single adult female having their litters. And we also caught them moving. We managed to capture a lot of sort of great sightings with the Djuma clan. And I say if, Pumela's not around anymore, and obviously I hope he is, but it is looking quite unlikely, to be honest, just due to the lack of sightings, then that means that every single adult female, all 5 of them, only has one instead of a twin litter. So that means that Ribbon has Nkwazi, and Tima has Ntambo, her little boy, and Corky has Braveheart. June has Nabella, and who am I forgetting here? Oh, Heart would have Gengurika. So it means that there's only one offspring per adult now. But kills, especially lion kills, lion on a buffalo, lion on a giraffe, that's a good sighting to actually see the hyenas, especially if it's within their territory. Normally they'll all come there and we'll get a chance to view them all. Wasn't it with you that we had that fantastic bushwalk with the hyenas, the Djuma clan? We walked them on foot. I remember that, yes. And the Nkuhumas were on a giraffe kill on power lines. And the Carcass was almost finished and there was no lions around, but we walked all the Djuma clan on foot. It was an incredible bushwalk. They were all just lying around waiting for, wow, a bit of giraffe. Hyenas are actually quite easy to walk on foot, especially here. Maybe not in every environment, but they're habituated. Well, I don't actually know. I get a lot of questions. I got a question the other day on Instagram. Hi, please tell me how many leopards are in the Sabi Sands and what are their names? Okay, the Sabi Sands is really big. And here at WildEarth, at least, we just cover the northern sector. So, sort of the Buffelshoek, the Torchwood, the Djuma, and I guess Simbambili. That's just the north sector. It extends far west and far south and far east and far south. It's a huge area, the Sabi Sands, so I have no idea how many leopards there are. There's probably a lot of unknown ones that we have no idea about. And clans, I have no idea. I'm really only familiar with the Djuma clan and, of course, the Elephant Plains clan. But there'll be a lot more clans, especially those hyenas that come in and out of the Kruger. We're at Treehouse Dam. But unfortunately, I mean, we follow our clans extensively. I mean, I think I know a lot about the Djuma clan, but I wouldn't say that's the norm. Not everyone is interested in hyenas, I'm afraid. In fact, I mean, they just want to see the big five when they come here. So hyenas have been ignored for a really long time. And it's not many places that sit and spend as much time as we do at the den learning all the clan members. But I think hyenas are becoming more and more interesting. And people are realizing that dens are wonderful places to be. So maybe we'll get more information, but I really don't know how many clans there are. But I imagine a lot. And the Djuma clan sort of territorial boundary clashes with the Elephant Plains. And that hyena that I put on my Instagram that came to my door, everyone thought it was Swazi. It wasn't. We don't know who it is. I actually chatted to Michael about this and we can't find an ID for it. It looked male to me, but again, I'm not entirely sure. And we don't know who it was or where it came from. We're going to keep bumbling south this morning and hopefully get lucky with some tracks.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me, it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then, that was the opportunity of the scraping.
I say the bedding and the call, definitely, for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
No luck yet for any tracks, I'm afraid. But I'm just going to enjoy traveling some roads that I didn't get to yesterday. We got to see Missy's Wick's 2 eggs. 2! It's really wonderful. She flew off and we just got a great visual. We checked after we left and it looks like there are only 2. Of course, there could be one slightly behind and down that we didn't see, but it does look like 2. And that's quite common, 2 or 3 for the spotted eagle owls. So we'll just need to keep. I don't think it'll be time just yet, but I'm going to check in every single day. You have to work it a bit for signal nowadays, but it's worth it to keep following the story of the wigs. I have to admit, when I first arrived here, I obviously have great knowledge and understanding of fish, but I felt quite removed from birds. I wasn't an avid birder, naturally, and I liked birds, of course, I like all animals, but I wasn't so connected with birds out of all the animals here. And I must say, in the period of 3 years, that has completely transformed. I love birds now. I find them fascinating, I find them incredible, and I do enjoy birding. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I enjoy it. But it took a while to get there. And I remember when I first came here, a lovely lady called Megan said to me, "Lauren, the bush is like an onion." So this onion in my hand right now is the bush. And it's not possible for one to come in and just learn everything or think they know everything. The tracking, the sights, the sounds, the smells, how to find animals and the mammals and the birds, everything. So naturally you will take a different path from everybody else, but it's the same process. You've just got to peel back a layer of that onion and keep going. It doesn't stop. I don't think there's any single guide that knows everything about the bush. That's how I feel. So you peel off that first layer, which is, let's say, mammals, and then you learn all the mammals and you know all the information. Then you peel back the next layer, which is, let's say, birds. Then you peel back the next layer, which is the vegetation in the trees, and it just keeps going. Insects, amphibians, the seasons, the grasses, keep peeling back the layer. And I thought that was a really good analogy for the bush. And I guess it's applicable to any habitat, any ecosystem around the world. The ocean, the desert, the rainforest. And I guess that's how it works, an onion. A jolly, great big onion. I'm just making some decisions where to go. I think I maybe might pop into Tswalu. I love that property. Megan, I completely agree. It's amazing how an interest that you didn't ever think you would have develops. I completely agree. Something that you never thought you would be interested in. Never thought I would be interested in birds. I always liked them, but I didn't think I would develop a passion for it. And naturally, it just flares. And that's what I love about working in wildlife or working in nature. There's so much to learn. I went to Ethiopia, the Bali Mountains. It's a new environment, a new ecosystem. I'm 4,000 meters up. I don't know any of the animals. I don't know any of the signs. You've got to start again. But you've got the foundations. As long as you've got the foundations, I think you can apply it anywhere. Hyena tracks. And then you go to the ocean, the coral reef. My goodness, you don't know anything. You've got to start again. And I think as long as you've got the building blocks, you can apply it anywhere, and always keep an open mind. If anyone tells you they know everything, they're lying. Okay, I'm on my favorite boundary line. I don't really know why it's my favorite boundary line. I just like grooming. I like the south. I guess you've got the two dams there, twin dams, tree house. I think I need to have 3 cups of coffee in the morning. And then, of course, it leads to Chitwa. Okay, I'm going to keep bumbling along the side, see what we can find. I'm going to send you over to Tristan, who's also bumbling.
Well, while Lauren looks around the southern boundary, we've just found the buffalo now. We've been kind of doing loops around, trying to see where they've gone, and we've eventually picked up their tracks again in the block here. And now we've just found them. They're lying down at the moment, all pretty stationary. But I want to just check carefully because there was definitely lion tracks trailing them. So the lions might be lying up somewhere close by. It looks like in the block there was a bit of running around and carrying on. So if they're not here, if we don't find any sign of the lions here, then they maybe have already done some damage further back, which means we'll just kind of have to backtrack a little bit. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. There's a very small section of the herd. We're right at the back end of them, which is where I would want to be with these lions. They would pretty much would be on the back end. It's very seldom that they try to get around to the head of the herd. They normally like to push from the back. The thing is, though, is that if they are here, the buffalo have absolutely no clue because they're all lying down. If the buffalo were aware and alert to the fact that the lions were around, you would have found that they would be quite sort of mobile and they'd be up and standing and looking. So either the lions have had a go and they've left them alone and moved off for a little bit, or they've caught one and are busy with that. Or they're still watching and the buffalo still have no idea that they're even behind them. So I'm not really sure what the actual scenario is, but we'll just have to be patient and find out. It's amazing, though, how you have a herd of buffalo. Within hours, these lions in the area start to trail them, particularly if it's big herds. They cross through these areas, like when they come through this section, the Talamatis latch onto them pretty quickly. They go further south, the Nkuhumas start following them. Further from there, then it's the Kambula and Sevu pride that starts following them. As soon as they cross into the territory, the lions kind of pick up their noses and their heads and start heading in that direction. The other thing is we haven't heard any lions this morning, so there's been no roaring, which I'm pretty sure Darkmane would be doing if he was on his own. So my gut tells me he's still with them. And that they're moving slowly in this direction. Because the last tracks I had was heading towards this block on my left-hand side and then the buffalo on my right-hand side at the moment. There's so many buffalo tracks on the road that I didn't even look for lion tracks. We could smell them, so I was like, well, if we can smell the buffalo, they're close by. It's not even worth it. If the lions are there, they're there and we'll find them. Otherwise, we'll find the buffalo and then just work around them and see if we pick up where the lions went. Everything looks quite settled for now. A bit of rain starting to fall. So Tom, who's 11 years old, basically the herds are when they're this big, they leave a lot of smell behind because they defecate and urinate. So basically go to the loo all around the place. And so other buffalo that maybe were grazing a little further afield, they will smell them and be able to join. Also, they can hear each other. They can hear the oxpeckers. They can hear the noise of bellows and grunts and those kinds of things and find their way back to the herd. And the other part of it is, behaviorally speaking, when buffalo are together in groups like this, they move together, so they don't just stay behind. It's very seldom that a buffalo will want to just leave the herd unless it's an old male who's tired of walking. He sometimes will kind of back off the back end of the herd and he'll stay around a watery area. But if it's if it's young individuals, then they try and stay together as much as possible. So as soon as the herd starts moving, everybody moves in unison, because once you get left behind and you're not with the herd, then you can get killed. So they're pretty good at just constantly seeing each other, listening to each other, and then if they do get lost a little bit, let's say lions hunt them and they get separated, then they're able to pick up through scent and sound and find each other again and then join up. But it seems most of them should be on the other side. I think what I'm going to do is actually go around onto Gallagher shortcut side, just to check that the lions haven't come through the block onto that side. And we should get a better view of the herd. Like I say, this is just the back end of them. There's not very many of them here. I'd expect a lot more around on the other side. This block is very, very narrow. There's not a lot of distance between us and the next road. In fact, I can see the next road through the block already. So I think if we just go around there, just check if we don't, one, get a better view for David to film, because this is not exactly pretty, and two, just to see if the lions haven't crossed behind these buffalo onto that side and are coming up from that direction. It's always good when you're with buffalo just to do a little loop around them first before you kind of settle in with them. Almost just looks like a fragment of the herd though. Maybe it's just the way the terrain is, I can't actually see the rest. Shame, these poor buffalo. Can you imagine what it must be like to be out in weather like this? It's a bit stormy, but rainy, and at night, and you're just being pressured by lions the whole night. A very uncomfortable feeling. Alrighty, let's just shoot around. So I have done pretty much all the roads around these buffalo now, so we know that the lions aren't just on a road somewhere. My gut tells me they're in the block, watching them from a distance, or at least listening to them from a distance. So we'll go around and just check. If there's nothing here, then I think what we'll do is just sit with the buffalo and be patient. Good morning, Mike. There's just this herd of buffalo. We've found them in the block now between Gallagher Shortcuts and Aubrey's. Tracks for Pride of Lions was following them on Weirtail Access. I haven't found any sign of them on Gallagher Shortcut, but I didn't check the whole shortcut. Maybe if you can come from Weirtail Access up Gallagher Shortcut, up Aubrey's, then just check there and see if there's any sign of them there.
Okay, copy things, but yeah, I'm gonna try to check around, yeah. That's an exit, maybe towards to the gate.
Okay, copy. I did do return access to the gate, so I haven't done the southern part of Aubrey's Road. The last tracks I had for the Ngala were around Sandy Patch, looking like they were going north and east behind the buffalo.
Okay, copy things, but yeah.
Alright. Okay, so we've got Mike just checking a section of Aubrey's Road that I didn't check. So it doesn't look like the main part of the herd. It looks like this is a splinter group. Although there are more across there. It's definitely not the herd we had yesterday, or not the same number of animals we had yesterday, unless more of them have turned southwards a little bit. I'm going to try and just catch up and see exactly what's going on here. Try and work out who we have and how we have it.
We have just arrived to Twin Dams, not Twin House, as I said earlier. Nothing much is going on, but sometimes it's nice to just look, watch the pitter-patter of the rain. It's light rain, but it's still rain, falling across the dam. And it gives you it gives you ample time to listen. Listening is a key skill here. Especially on WildEarth, we feel like we have to talk all the time, but actually just stopping and listening is really important. So that's what we're going to do. just love the sound of the birds in the morning. I think I'm going to sit here a little bit long and enjoy it.
Good morning and welcome back on Bushwalk. So one of the subjects that we teach guides on guiding courses at Eco Training is ecology. And for those of you that wondered where the word ecology derives from, it actually means the study of our home, and it's derived from the word oikos. We also see what the definition of ecology is. And simply, if we define ecology, it's basically a study of interrelationships between living and non-living organisms within this environment that we find ourselves. So some of the relationships which we normally discuss with guides on course are both commensalistic, mutualistic, as well as parasitic relationships. And in some cases, for example, commensalistic relationships will be where we find a relationship between two organisms where the one will not harm the other. The second relationship is parasitism, where we find that the organism will either destroy or partially utilize another organism over a period of time. My favorite of all relationships within ecosystems are mutualistic relationships, where both animals will benefit, and those relationships have normally started off at some way in a parasitic relationship where the other organism also learned to eventually exploit the other in return. And one of my favorite mutualistic relationships are these lichens that we find over here on the rock. And they're basically a relationship between a fungi and an algae. So how it works is that the fungi has the ability to actually extract nutrients and minerals from the rock, while the algae has the ability to photosynthesize, simply using nutrients as well as sunlight and and carbon dioxide to convert that into carbohydrates, which is then provided as a meal and shared between the two different organisms. I also find lichens particularly interesting as that they generally only found in very clean air, and they're also very good indicators of the health of an ecosystem. Good morning, Lisa, and welcome to the walk. Yes, you're definitely right. Everything does complement one another out here in the ecosystem. The only aspect that you can take out of, or component that you can take out of the ecosystem is us, and it will still perfectly work. It's therefore also very important that we are sensitive towards our environment and our home which we live in. Well, we're going to start moving on and see what we can go and find. Let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
Alright, so we've come round and at least found the main section of the herd. Everybody's just lying down, taking it quite easy, except for one bull that is death staring us at the moment. He's not very enthralled that we've pulled up with our roof. Seemingly the roof is a big object and he's not exactly that excited about it. But yeah, any further signs of the Telematis around here. I think I'm just going to sit with them and be patient for a little bit. It's a cool, dark, even morning, so I wouldn't be surprised that they're just lurking somewhere around here. And the bush is quite dense in this area. It's not that easy to see what's going on. I mean, if you look out over this herd, it's not the kind of direction, unfortunately, with these rain roofs, it's tricky for David, but if you look out in places, there's buffalo that are lying down and you can't actually even see them. Every now and then you just see a horn pop up or something like that. So if that's the case for a big buffalo like this, lions would be equally difficult to spot in that regard. So we'll just kind of give it a chance, give it some time to breathe and see whether or not these buffalo get spooked by something. Then we'll know that the lions are still in the area. Otherwise, maybe they've moved off. Like I say, sometimes they try and hunt and they fail, and then they go and just lie somewhere else and rest, then try again at another point. As we were saying earlier, it's very easy to find buffalo for lions. Strong scent that they leave behind in the form of lots of dung. They're also quite noisy, so if the lions have a crack and miss, they can just go rest and recuperate and then try again later in the day or night. So I don't think, we need to give up hope just yet, but it's also a reality is that it might have already all gone down and the lions have given up and are just resting for now and will gather their energy and then come back. Look at this one, completely out cold. That's ridiculous. Sorry, David, I have no idea what you're looking at. I don't have a monitor, everybody, so I just kind of ramble on and poor David or poor Gert has to figure a way to follow what I'm saying. But this guy here is having the best nap. Carl, I haven't seen him yet, but he is in this group. I saw him yesterday in the herd. So it's the same group. I mean, we're literally tracking them from where we had them yesterday. So he should be here. I just haven't seen him as yet. They're quite spread this morning. They're lying down. A lot of them are kind of spread out. So it's difficult to see everyone. But I'm sure he's here. Yeah. It's quite noticeable, so if the herd gets up and starts to move, I'm pretty certain we'll pick him up quite quickly. The problem with these herds is that it's not always easy to find the bulls in amongst them when they're sitting like this. And when they're walking, it's a bit easier because the bulls tend to shift out towards the front, sides and back. So you tend to notice them a lot more than maybe a cow, for example, in the herd. But when they're lying like this, everybody just finds a spot and lies down. So the bulls can be anywhere in this group. So the guy with the big horns can be lying down right here, or he could be at the other side where we first spotted them on the other road. Difficult to say. I just have to wait and see. I still haven't seen the light-coloured calf. Everyone's been telling me about this calf that's super light in coloration, but I haven't seen it. Not to be honest, the buffalo haven't really been in the greatest spots. Even yesterday afternoon, they were in quite dense, thick areas. So to see that little one would be to have them going towards water. If they went towards water, and they kind of filtered out into a dam, be able to see it. Lauren, yes. So these herds are not strictly bound together, that if you're in this herd, you may not go anywhere else. There's quite a lot of movement between buffalo, so you'll find if, like I was saying earlier, if a bull gets tired of walking with the herd because the herd is in constant move, sometimes they drop off and they go do their own thing. And then another herd comes past, they'll join that herd. Cows and calves sometimes get split by lions and don't find their way back to that herd, and they wander about and then find another one and they'll just join in with them. There's pretty loose in that regard. It's not like a buffalo herd is going to come past another herd and be like, well, you can't join us. They'll kind of come together, and sometimes they all merge and sometimes little fracture groups develop. It really also depends on the time of the year as to how that happens. Often I find in summer the big herds get smaller, they splinter into smaller groups. There's so much food availability and water that there's no need for them to be too worried about trying to kind of stay together and walk all the way to a water point. There's enough water that they can just be in the smaller groups, and on top of that they get much stronger, so they don't have to have the same numbers to defend themselves. They're able to keep predators at bay pretty effectively, even in smaller groups in the summer. I know they do have quite a penetrating stare, don't they? It's always when a buffalo looks at you, you can kind of feel the intensity. There's always that joke that it looks like, that you owe them money. But it's interesting because if you get lion or leopards that are a little bit wild and a little bit, you know, on the grumpy side, they can have a stare that can turn you ice cold pretty quickly as well. The buffalo just do it more often in those animals, but I promise you, when you got a big male lion, and funny enough, the Matimbas, when they first arrived here, they had a particular disdain for trackers on the front of the cars. And, you know, obviously you don't know that the first time you see them. And they used to sit there and just stare, and then they'd start grumbling, and their teeth would come out, and then they would just have this, like, ice-cold stare at the tracker. Particularly, it was very unsettling. So we started having to put the trackers in the cars for a while. And eventually they got used to it, and then they became pretty normal, much like what we see here. But yeah, there was a period in time where they were a little on the feisty side. Have to be a bit careful around them. But a buffalo stare is definitely one of those that everybody kind of knows about and always feels a little uncomfortable by when a buffalo stares at you. I remember poor Paul's had some interesting experiences with animals, but I remember one of the first times I drove through a buffalo herd with him, and we drove, and there's a whole bunch of bulls right next to the road, and this one just like took one step forward and stared, and Paul was like, "No, I'm gonna die. You need to get me out of here." I was like, "No, it's okay, don't worry, Paul, we'll survive." And we managed to kind of get out the way and move, and then everything was fine. Nowadays he's okay when we drive through the herds, but you always forget that first time. It's just how difficult or how potent the stare of a buffalo is and its size. All right, well, we'll sit here and just be patient. Let's see what else comes our way.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week, we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We're just busy looking at a little burrow system that's been created by a rock scorpion, and we can also see the remains of millipede rings over here, which it has fed on. So when it comes to training guides at Eco Training, we also train them on arthropods. That's basically joint-footed organisms, and it includes spiders, insects, as well as scorpions. And one of those divisions of training where we empower guides of knowledge on is scorpions specifically. And it's important that guides can separate medically important scorpions from non-medical important scorpions. And it's actually very easy to separate them, as those that have incredibly powerful venom and that are regarded as medically important has incredibly big stings and generally very small pinchers. And these that are less of medical importance, such as this rock scorpion, actually has large pinchers but an incredibly small sting. One of the things that I do find particularly fascinating about this rock scorpion is that it's also the longest scorpion in Africa, and they measure lengths of up to 20 to 22 centimeters. And this is specifically true for the males. And they do have to have long tails. And what they do is they sting the female when they intend to mate with her, so that they can make her a little bit more docile, mate with her, and get out there before that she will eat them. Because quite often, when it does come to male scorpions, they do fall prey to female scorpions, which is generally larger than that they are. Some of the other things I just want to point out quickly over here with these millipede rings, they're actually quite unique, is that they've got calcium to actually provide them with more integrity or strength. And what we also find with millipedes is that they actually have a toxin inside them, which makes them unpalatable to most animals. However, rock scorpions, civets, as well as banded mongoose love these. We also even find that southern ground hornbills will use millipedes to encase them into the nest entrance to actually deter nest parasites from entering that cavity where the nest is located. So one of the questions that I was asked a little bit earlier in the show was by Julia, and what is the things that I might have actually grown into over the years of guiding, which I never knew that I would really enjoy. And the things that I really came to enjoy is things such as scorpions, snakes, spiders, and a number of things that I always despised in my childhood, as I considered these as dangerous. For me, today, scorpions is probably one of the most amazing predators on this planet, after great white sharks. We're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what Tristan is up to.
I think Lauren will agree about the shark side of things, being part of the greatest animals on the planet. But scorpions are fascinating. I really do enjoy scorpions as well, and obviously not when they get you. That's never enjoyable, but they're amazing little creatures. I always kind of knew about, well, I didn't know much about them actually, and I always kind of was a little nervy around scorpions, because when you're ignorant to these things and you don't really know scorpions and you don't know what they like and what they can do, you tend to misunderstand, and misunderstanding always leads to a incorrect prejudice against an animal that's been touted as being dangerous and difficult to deal with, and a bit like buffalo in some ways. People are petrified of buffalo, but as you can see sitting here, they all just kind of falling asleep around us, not like they're trying to kill us around every turn. It's the same with scorpions. Scorpions, most of them are pretty relaxed things. It takes a lot to get them to actually be aggressive towards you and then try and envenomate you. So as long as you aren't good around them and you don't try and kill them or try and catch them and harass them, then they typically leave you alone. The problem is that they are pretty mobile little creatures, and where a lot of envenomations happen is where people leave clothes lying around and then they put them on, or if they sometimes get into people's beds out here, and then you roll onto them, and obviously their defensive mechanism when they're being squashed is to envenomate. So, that kind of happens, but it's not that they go actively out there to try and harass you. And if you find a scorpion in the wild, generally what they try to do is just hide from you, like most things. It's the same thing with snakes, actually. Snakes are people always give snakes such a bad reputation, but they really aren't trying to kill you at every turn. Most of the time, a snake is just trying to defend itself when it envenomates somebody. And that's because somebody's tried to kill it and cut its head off or something like that, or tried to catch it. And it'd be the same for you as a human. You would fight tooth and nail if somebody was trying to hurt you or trying to capture you. It would be a very, very similar situation. So you can't blame snakes and scorpions for envenomating people when they do those kind of things to them. It's always an interesting topic because, we often see, and especially in the guiding world, it's something that we as guides need to be very careful of and need to start paying a lot more attention to, is what we do to animals. And when I say what we do, I meant in terms of there's an education side of being a guide, and you're trying to teach people about the environment and show them things and get them to understand and learn. But there needs to be there's a very fine line between doing that and then costing an animal and stressing an animal out. And so for me personally, handling of things like snakes, scorpions, chameleons is a big no-no. It's not necessary to go and pick up those animals to show you. If the visual of them is not great, it's not great. Use a book, show people in a book. The reason why I say that is that we wouldn't ever dream of getting out and picking up a buffalo and coming and pulling a buffalo by its horns to the car to be like, have a look at the nostrils or the eyes. So, why would you do that with one of those animals that is a little bit more defensive and smaller? There's a huge amount of stress that's going to go into picking up those animals, and it's just not... I don't know. I just don't think it's the right way to go about things. I think we've evolved since then. Initially, yes, and I get that maybe a child touching a chameleon and feeling its skin will develop a love, but I think if you're doing your job correctly, you have enough of an ability to unlock that same passion by being able to relay the information and talking to a child than having to let it touch something. I think it just sets a bad precedent to handle nature. I know we all do it at times, and because obviously we go through a situation where it's like, well, if you can't do that, then you can't chase a fly off your food or something like that. But that's a little different. Flies sit on poo and then they land on your food. I don't particularly want to eat that. So that for me is a little bit of a different scenario. But if an animal's just out in the wild and doing its own thing and is not stressing you out, then I don't think it's fair to go and try and stress it out and pick it up and handle it and move it around and disturb its day. It only lead to negative reactions, and like I say, none of us would want that. Imagine being in your home and some giant came and picked you up and then showed you to everybody and then placed you back but in the wrong place, and then you had to try and find back to where your home is. So a lot of things like that just kind of don't sit well. Quite glad, though, that we don't have to drag buffalo by the horns to a vehicle to show everybody that they're accommodating enough. These things are seriously powerful. Wouldn't want to tangle with them. Also, I doubt that they would even let you get close. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, but I did try to circle the block. I don't pick up any trails that were coming out.
It seems like the lions are not out, so I wonder if they're just still somewhere here. All right, well, we're going to sit here and we'll just be a little bit patient and figure it out, and maybe we'll get lucky. In the meantime, though, take a look at what you can experience if you join us on an explorer's expedition.
arrived at my destination. My destination being Chitwa, one of my favorite water bodies, and without a doubt the volume will have decreased, of course, but you can hardly tell. I mean, when you go to Gowrie Dam, you can really see that the dam is getting smaller. It will fill up again, of course, but it's getting smaller. But Chitwa Dam is very difficult to tell because it's still so full and it's just a really large body of water. It's the largest that we have in our traverse right now. It's not including Bufosuk and Torchwood. But between Djuma and Chitwa, it's definitely the largest water body. And I just feel so happy when I come here. It also helps that Chitwa's an incredible property. It's very small and it's almost sort of funnel shaped, if you like. And it is very close to the Mulwati, even although the Mulwati doesn't run through it, and it does have the Mulwanini and lots of different drainage lines, which is why it's very popular with the predators. It's also the crossover property from south to north. Right below Gowrie Main. It's just very productive, all in all. And I believe Tandy was here last night on a kill, but it got stolen by the hyenas. So she's obviously stormed off somewhere, whether she's headed north into Torchwood or she's still on this property. We may as well scratch around and see if we can find her. I can imagine she'll be a little bit grumpy. As would I, if someone stole my food. It's so relaxing. I miss these sounds. There's lots of different bird calls in the Maldives. They have lots of different birds. But the most amazing thing over there is the fruit bats. They're huge. They're diurnal. And you'll just be walking along and you've got to be very cautious for the coconuts. Falling coconuts kills more people per year than do sharks. And a coconut landing on your head is, no, it's not going to end well. But you also have to watch out for the bats, because if they're above you eating any sort of delicious fruit, they just drop the seed, they drop the pip, they drop the fruit and it lands on your head. Not quite as dangerous as the coconuts, but still. And these bats are just gorgeous. They're huge. They're just the most entertaining thing to watch. Clara, probably in the water, more so, but maybe only marginally. It does depend on the season. It's very seasonal, dependent how long they spend in water, but they are primarily nocturnal, and I think that's what a lot of people often don't realize about hippos. So during the day, they are really just resting. They're just sleeping, chilling, urinating, defecating, having the best time in the water. Spending very little energy, just keeping buoyed up in a liquid medium. Whereas at night time, they come out to forage. So that's really when you can classify an animal as being nocturnal, because it's more active during the night, it walks about at night, and that's when it's really feeding. So during the day, they're so cumbersome, they're so heavy, that they actually save energy, if you like. They don't spend so much energy if they just keep themselves buoyed up in the water. And that's exactly why they do that. If they have to sort of walk about on land all day, rest, get up, it's going to take a lot out of their energy budget. They don't have to tread water like we do. They're just keeping themselves floating. And I mean, usually mammals eat about 5% of their body weight to sustain their sort of nutritional requirements, whereas hippos only eat 1.5% of their body weight. And they are mammals, so they need to offset that by saving lots of energy, and that's why they spend time in the water. So, Clara, I'm going to say they spend more time in the water, but really, I mean, it could also be 50-50. Between sunset and sunrise, they can be walking about. I mean, they are classified as truly amphibious, the only ungulate that really is. Even their Latin name, Hippopotamus amphibius. Just gonna listen to the birds for a moment or two. Why, you're seeing, is that a carcass in the water? I don't know where you're looking. Let me get my binos out. Oh my goodness, I think it is. I did not spot that. Well done. I really didn't spot that. I completely missed that. I don't know what it is, though.
Waterbuck, maybe.
You think waterbuck? I mean, it's very difficult to actually see what it is, but it's the carcass. Well done. And lo and behold, it's still floating and hasn't been pulled under. Fascinating. I'm going to go with waterbuck, but it's very, very difficult to tell. If any of you have any other ideas, send them through. I wonder how long it's been there for. Well spotted. Did not even see that. I've got my contact lenses in today as well. Ignored by the hippos, of course, although there are records of hippos nibbling on carrion. They're herbivorous, obviously, and they forage on the vegetation at night time, but there's definitely examples and records of hippos nibbling away on carrion. But clearly not this one. I wonder what happened to that carcass. This big boy. You see how you can barely see that? I mean, you can when obviously the camera is zoomed in, but that's very streamlined. That is the minimal amount of body above the surface as possible. Obviously the eyes are out, the nose are out, the nostrils are out. But other than that, look at that croc. I wonder if it's going to come out the water.
Still with our buffalo herd, not much has changed. They're just resting and taking it very easy. There's no drive for them to head to water this morning. It's overcast, it's cool. I think they're just bedding down and enjoying the cool morning. Eventually they'll get up and start to wander. I suspect, though, from here they're not going to turn down towards Gari Dam. I think their next port of call will be northwards into Buffelshoek. Most of them are kind of facing in a northerly direction. And that's the kind of way that they were traveling last night as well, and yesterday morning. So I'm pretty sure that's where they're going to head. You never know, though. Things can change and things can turn them and get them going in a different direction. As you can see, there's a cow here that's looking quite skinny. She's a little bit on the emaciated side, so that's probably due just to a hard winter, as well as maybe a bit of TB taking effect. It's not a animal that's in the best condition. Funny enough, the oxpeckers have been quite quiet. For a herd that's stationary like this, the oxpeckers normally are flittering about and going from one to another, and they just started calling now, but I haven't really noticed them making a lot of noise this morning. I don't know if it's due to it being fairly cold that they're all just sitting hunkering down, or if it's because there's a lack of movement in the buffalo. There's not a lot of jostling and moving of the oxpeckers. You know, when the buffalo are moving, the oxpeckers are often being pushed around because they are on the buffalo, and then the buffalo walks past a branch and it flicks over their back and the oxpecker has to fly. Whereas now they can just chill and take it easy. But it sounds like Darkmane has split from the Pride. His tracks are going north from this area. So I don't know if the rest just lay up and he didn't feel like lying with them and wanted to go more northwards. I'm not sure.
Is that in Ponzo, or you got the actual animal?
One of the big 5 responders. Just checking to see if somebody has done the work for them. We have a few of those out here. And it is weird, isn't it? How the horn changes so much. From being dead straight initially to then going out and getting this sort of bow that gets pushed into it. Oh, that's a nice bird there. Look, David. It's a Birchall's Kukul. I haven't seen one of those in ages at Djuma. See if we can try get it though. No, don't go into the thicket, Birchall's Kukul. It was sitting quite nice. You can just see its tail flicking up every now and then. Let's just see. It might come out. Like I say, these guys, I mean, they're common. I haven't seen one for a while. I haven't gotten one on camera either. They're quite a secretive, shy bird at times. Can be in the denser areas. And if we hear them calling, it's always a sign that we're in the summer months. They call a lot in summer. You can just see its tail every now and then. I'm sure it's going to come up onto a branch at some point. We'll be able to see it nicely. Rooting around in that little thicket. I like sitting and doing a bit of birding when you have these herds. You often, because you sit for so long and sort of sit stationary, the birds start to come in a lot more. You can get like little firefinches and waxbills and 20-fang priniers and cisticolas, and well, it depends actually where you are. All kinds of little birds that start to skulk around you. Get comfortable with your presence. Fortunately, our kukul hasn't come out. True to form, it was kind of out in the open, but as soon as the camera bends around, then look at that one smiling there, phlegm and grimace. Hello, buddy. Scenting a female, obviously. Trying to figure out whether or not she's ready to be mated with. So you see them smell like that and then smile. That's what's happening. There's obviously a bit of urine there that he's picking up and trying to open out that organ of Jacobson to allow the scent to kind of go up into the pits and then be analysed to tell him whether or not he's got a chance of getting lucky, or if, well, just has to carry on and find somebody else. You often see them doing this when they're lying like this, because as they're lying down, they'll often urinate. And so there can be patches of grass which has got quite strong urine in it. For this behavior. Just there. Silly boy. Still got grass stuck in his teeth as well. David, did you hear that?
Hold of speaking, losing the feed.
Ah. Right, sorry about that, everybody. It seems like we had a little glitch in the technical stuff. I wonder if it's because of this thunder and lightning that's coming in. I saw a little bolt of lightning, and then now the thunder. It's far, this thunder and lightning, but it's still out there, which is not. It doesn't bode well for our morning. I'm hoping we're not going to get rained on. It won't be very much fun. The weather forecast is actually looking pretty ominous for the next couple of days. We have supposed to have been quite warm today. It's supposed to be about 30 degrees today, but tomorrow it drops to like 18 or something, and 100% chance of rain, and quite a lot of rain. I think it's like over 10 mils that is forecast, and then it's rain the following day, then it kind of stops and warms up a little bit, and then rain again, and then rain again. So I think we're in for proper amounts of spring rain, which will transform the bush pretty quickly, but it's going to make game drive a little on the miserable side. Anyway, I think let's carry on. Let's do another loop around, see if these Talamatis haven't made an appearance somewhere around here.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning. Up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
We're just taking a little exploration around Chitwa. The Mulwanini is just down here. It's not possible to see. But we all know that Tandy and Maribs love to spend time in the Mulwanini, and if Tandy was on a kill and she had it stolen, she could still be around. Maribs is of course spending more and more time away from mom, which is normal. He's not ready to go quite yet. I think I'll have him around for a little bit longer. But if I was a sulking leopard, which I'm not, I would maybe sulk somewhere like this. And although stealing from one another, stealing each other's kills is very common in the animal kingdom, hyenas have the worst reputation for it. I don't understand why, but they do. And if you have put all that energy, you're hungry, you've executed a kill, you've stalked, you've ambushed, it's exhausting, maybe you've even hoisted, and it gets stolen from you. That must be pretty heartbreaking. Okay, I'm just going to scratch around a little bit longer here. I'm going to send you guys over to Tristan.
Well, good luck, Lauren. They've been spending most of their time on Tortured these days, not very much on Chitwa. So hopefully Lauren will find them somewhere there. Anyway, we have a herd of ellies, not far from the buffalo. Literally just drove out of the buffalo herd and bumped straight into a herd of ellies. Most of them are not visible at the moment. I can hear them to my left. So it's just this young one that is having a little feed. There's a tree being shaken. But you can hear the rest are coming slowly through the block. Pretty sure we'll get them coming out now. Nice to see the ellies. Generally, this kind of weather, stormy, gloomy weather, don't see a lot of elephant in comparison to the hot weather. As we saw last week when it was so hot, there was just, it was elephant herd after elephant herd after elephant herd. They were absolutely everywhere. When it's like this, they don't feel the need to come out as much. They can kind of hide out in the drainage lines, and they come for water, every now and then, but it's not a thing where they need water as much as they do when it's hot. So you don't see them kind of moving nearly as big a distances or as frequently as they would in a hot day. Little Ellie is just cleaning the grass off. Seems like they're mostly heading down into the drainage line here. None of them are heading our way or going the opposite way, so we obviously missed them crossing the road. They were quite quiet because we were sitting with the buffalo for a while. I didn't hear them. Normally you hear elephants in the distance because they crack branches and break things and can be quite vocal at times too. But today there was none of that. So alas, let me move a little bit for you, David, so we have a bit more of a clear view. Also, because this pole's going to get in the way shortly. It's good. Back. It's just the pole of this roof is a nightmare for the poor cameraman. It kind of sits in the mid-frame, and it's amazing how often we absolutely get it perfectly in frame. I'm sure it drives these guys mad. What are you doing? Scratching his eye with the grass in his trunk. Now that behavior that you're seeing is just to try and get as much soil off as possible so that they're not grinding their teeth too much. Charlotte, what kind of weather do elephants thrive in? Well, it depends. So they can thrive in any weather, really. It's just the hot weather is uncomfortable for them. They're big and they require a fair amount of water anyway. And so when it's hot, it just amplifies that. And their bodies start to feel like they're overheating. So that's why they'll try and make it to water. So from a people perspective and a viewing of elephants perspective, dry, hot is what you want, because you will see a lot more elephants and a lot of them going towards waterholes and doing their thing. But for an elephant to actually thrive, weather like we've got this morning, very little wind, overcast and cool, bit of rain in the air, make them very, very happy. I think brown-hooded kingfisher calling in the background. this is the kind of weather that they do super well in, because it's cool enough that they don't have to be in the thickets and under shade. There's a bit of rain in the air, which means that they get moisture through their kind of skin a little bit. They absorb a little bit of moisture through their skin, but also it means that there's little mud wallows and things that they can go and utilize, so that makes them happy. New growth of vegetation, so they do well in that. So kind of early or late summer, when the temperatures are not too high, and there's actually late summer will be better, with lots of food, temperatures aren't high, lots of water around. That makes elephants absolutely thrive. They do super well under those conditions. But then again, elephants are resourceful. They pretty much do well no matter what. They have the tools to be able to find food in even the harshest of conditions. So, I mean, they'll struggle a little bit in drought times, but everybody does. That's just due to a lack of food. But they're pretty resourceful. They dig and do all kinds of things to be able to find what they're looking for. This guy's loving the grass. I'm surprised. The grass is not very green here, or anyway, it looks like it's nutritious. Maybe it's just getting a bit of roughage, a bit of fiber in there. And then we'll find better and more tasty things to eat. A lot of the bush willows have now produced some leaf, so I'm sure they're going to eat a lot of that. It's nice to sit with them and just enjoy the sounds of Ellie's feeding. Peaceful. Well, and listen, they live a life that's pretty rough at times. So holes and tears in the ears are often due to them moving through thick, dense vegetation, and a little thorn catches it and tears it through. And, you know, a lot of the time those little tears are when they're young, so it's like a little small tear. And then as they grow and the ear grows, so the separation between where the tears happen gets bigger and bigger, and it looks a lot worse than it actually is, or as it started. So a lot of it is that, even like play fighting, and they push each other into a branch, and the branch catches the ear and just rips it. You know, those are typically the way that the ears are injured, is via those mechanisms. Every now and then you'll get a weird and wonderful thing that will happen, like a tusk injury to an ear, or, you know, little babies, hyenas trying to grab them and grab their ears and cause a little bite mark. But it's really mostly just thorns and them moving through their environment as a youngster, when their ears are still very soft and very, very pliable. And that just grows out as they get older, and the hole gets bigger and bigger, or the tear gets bigger and bigger because of that. But this guy's got perfect ears. Doesn't even seem to be any little micro tears on the edges. Kept his ears in good condition. This one is trying to clean the grass, but he's not actually doing a good job, because he's not hitting it on anything. Normally they're supposed to hit it up against their chest, and that gets rid of the soil. Polisi, you're asking how we tell the difference between males and females with elephants. So when they're young, pretty tricky because the forehead shape hasn't really taken effect and the body shape is also not taken effect. But essentially what you're looking for is on a female elephant, she's going to have a very squared off forehead. So it comes to a very sharp point or almost a very angular forehead, whereas the bulls have this kind of gentle slope. So it's almost like a rounded forehead on the bulls. Then if you look at the length of the body between the front and back legs is longer on a female than it is on a male. So the males are much closer or compacted when it comes to distance between front and back legs. And then there's a size thing. So males are obviously a lot larger when they're fully grown compared to females. And tusks are far more developed, so bigger, thicker tusks as well on boys. The girls tend to develop shorter, thinner ones. Buffalo are making quite a bit of noise now. I think let's carry on and just try and see. I mean, if the buffalo are up and moving now, they're going to make a bit of noise. It's maybe going to be good for getting these lions, if they are in the area, going. I mean, the lions might have, like I say, gone a complete different direction. We haven't picked up the track. The roads are hard in places. So like now, if you look here, a whole herd of elephants has crossed this road, but you can't even see a single footprint to suggest that that's the case. So you can imagine soft-footed lions would also be quite tricky to pick up on this. And a lot of you might wonder why the roads are hard now. So what happens is when rain falls, there's two things. One, soft and loose granules of sand on the surface get washed, so they get pushed off of the road. The second thing that happens is when you take sand and you pour water on it, what it does is all the sand that's been disrupted by wind and everything else compacts, is it all falls down within itself, and all the spaces and cracks with the water and the gravity of the water pull those little sand particles down, and it gets to a flat surface. Then what happens is it dries and it actually forms like a hard crust, and so as it forms that hard crust, it's very difficult for us to see footprints on that. But when it's dry, the vehicles churn the road up and make those all soft particles again and loose particles, and then it's much easier to see what's going on.
Having much luck this morning, although I have got to drive some roads again. I love driving, I feel very familiar, but otherwise not having much luck. Weather conditions like this always play a part though. I think I've had one lucky sighting when it's been rainy weather like this. More often than not, they tend to be unlucky, shall we say. We do have some Impala up ahead. Thank you, Impala. All the females are looking very sportive, very pregnant, which is so sweet. Lambing season will soon be upon us. Little bachelor herd. Can you get them if I do this? The bachelor herds do not look pregnant, of course. But all the females that we drove past earlier, they absolutely do. And of course, once the lambs start dropping, naturally, there will be sort of a change in hormones from the females. And this will cause the males to go crazy all over again. They will get a little bit confused with the birthing hormones and just general estrus hormones. Starting to move off, crossing over into Torchwood. to change position here. We're looking at some Impala, but it's really not the world's best view. I hate having the rain roofs on. Why are you hiding, Impala? Okay. How is this? It's so difficult to actually position and figure out the best way to be for the car when you've got the rain roof on. Oh, Impala, I missed you guys. You absolutely take them for granted because, of course, you see them every day. But when you don't see them, you start to miss them. Gee, I always think it looks so painful to see those oxpeckers doing what they do. Necessary, yes. And the animals are, of course, very tolerant of them as a service. It's an ecosystem service that these oxpeckers are providing. Getting rid of the ticks, getting rid of the parasite. Exactly the same as cleaner fish underwater. I don't know if you've seen the cleaner wrasse. Very small little fish, and they're part of the wrasse family. And they sit at cleaning stations. So it works a little bit differently to the oxpeckers, whereas the oxpeckers seek those individuals they want to clean. Whereas underwater, the wrasse sit at a cleaning station, and it's just a coral bombing or a part of the reef where they all hang out. And the other organisms know this. So in order to get cleaned, they have to visit a cleaning station. Look at this. His eye. Ooh. So they have to swim there and get cleaned, and it won't be your turtles. I mean, it will be your fish, mantas, sharks. They all come and they just hover. So sharks can't really, and mantas can't stop swimming, so they have to just make the smallest of movements to just hover in the water column, open up their gills, open up their mouth, and let the cleaner wrasse come in and clean them. They never eat them. And it's exactly the same scenario here, really. It's completely applicable, providing a service to clean up all the animals, rid them of parasites. Meaty? I think I got that name wrong, but yes, I absolutely am. It's a wonderful time. I'm not sure if it'll be the same this year because a lot has changed, but normally all the presenters or the naturalists have a competition and we get very serious about it. Who spots the first lamb of the season, or who gets it on camera, actually. It's very, very serious. We used to get prizes and everything. I'm not sure that'll happen this year, but it's a wonderful time. And of course, it's also quite a sad time. I mean, the entire dynamics of the Lowveld changes. Unfortunately, the lambs make a fantastic feast for the predators. They really do. But that's why the impalas use the flood the market technique. They all do drop their lambs at the same time for that reason, because there will be loss. So how do you combat loss? Well, it's the best way to do that. Flood the market. 50% may die, but at least 50% will survive. So it's a wonderful, joyous time, but it's sad. The predators will absolutely make a feast of it. those little claws on your face. Oh, those tickle. Judy agreed. Very patient Impala. Sometimes they just shake them off. They don't love it, but this Impala is indeed very patient. I wonder if on some level it feels good. But the oxpeckers know no bounds as to where they poke their beak in. There's some sensitive regions on the body that the oxpeckers go for. They don't seem to consider that. It looks rather uncomfortable sometimes. But of course it's necessary. If we removed all the oxpeckers, a lot of species would be overrun with ticks. And it would bring down the health of not only the individuals, not only that population, but also the ecosystem. I love that Impala's little ear. You see that? What happened to your ear? And Impala are meticulous groomers anyway. They groom each other, but they're very meticulous about grooming themselves. They have specialized adaptations to do so. So if you really do find an Impala that's covered in ticks, then you know something's wrong. That Impala is not well. Looks delicious. Terrible for not being loyal to my words. I've got a favorite everything. I always say, oh, that's my favorite, and then next day, but that's my favorite. I'm not very good at being loyal to that. But I think my least favorite, no, that's terrible. I'm not going to go down that road. I really love kudus because they are just so magnificent. I love steenbok. We had some habituated steenboks around on quarantine, and they used to just watch me as I run. They wouldn't bat an eyelid. But then I really do love Impala. I normally always choose Impala, and it's not because it's the easiest option, it's because they are just so fantastic. They're amazing in every way. And that's why there's so many of them. They are just so successful. Disappearing now, so we're going to bumble on and see what we can find.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Tlalamba. We are very excited.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the hippos have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We put some fresh... I can't see them now. They look fresh. Female leopard tracks. Did you see them coming down here? You got them? Sometimes it's difficult to see over the other side. It's gonna reverse. I'll see if I'm missing anything, but they're crossing in from Torchwood. This is the first tracks I've seen all morning. Okay, everyone, as I'm looking, I'm ready to answer your questions. Questions, FC. Pump me with them. I don't think they crossed out, but let me just make sure. Okay, let's go down this road and see if we can find any other signs of a Panthera pardus. That would make my morning. Coming west from Torchwood into Djuma. Fabulous news. Sammy, I haven't. Obviously, I've just been back one day. I haven't heard any update about Miss Kalamba. The last time I saw her, she was watching us change the tyre at Treehouse Dam. I'm sure some of you will remember that. I got 2 flat tyres and 1 drive. Andrew and Davi came to rescue me, and Kalamba was watching the entire time. And that's obviously the last time I've seen her. That was quite some time ago. Many of you thought she had cubs earlier. Wrong. But it is suspected that she is pregnant now. So knowing Kalamba, it's going to be a bit of a mission. So I haven't had any update, I'm afraid, but I'm sure the longer I'm here, we'll start to gain all the information. This ground is really tricky. Well, now there's lion tracks. I don't think these lion tracks are fresh, though. But it was definitely a leopard that came in. I also checked for Batilda. No luck. Sean, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I mean, tracking is tracking. But when you're tracking, you're obviously following tracks. But it's really sort of tracks and signs. You're reading the signs of the bush, and as you begin to do it more often, you do learn to... There's a number of things. You do learn to start using your sense of smell. I have a very strong sense of smell anyway, but terrible ears. You learn to sort of listen more. Is there anything you can hear going on? Then you have to become really aware of your surroundings. Okay, where am I on the reserve? What is happening around me? Are there any alarm calls? If it's a leopard, look up in the trees. Are there any carcasses in the trees? Can you hear anything going down? Who could it be? Now, I obviously have been here a little bit longer just to sort of say, okay, which leopardess could this really be? And start to think, if it was this one, they would go this way. If it's this one, they're maybe going to go this way. Is it really hot? Where's the nearest water point? So you have to sort of put yourself in that position to become really hyper aware of your surroundings, as well as using all your senses. Follow the tracks, yes, but also look around. The animal could be right there, and you're too busy looking at the ground. So when you're tracking, it's a very sort of holistic, all-round experience. Naturally, it's better to get off on foot. I can't do that right now. You're stuck with me for now. But it's better to get off on foot and really be at ground level. When you're on the car, you're a little bit removed. And then it's really important when you come to a junction. Then you've got to really look. I'm going to go in the middle. One of us can check one side, one of us can check the other. And try and see which direction the animal has moved in. Once they go off the road into the thicket, then that's very, very difficult. That takes a whole other level of skill. Can you see anything? And I'm also listening right now. It's hard when we have an earpiece in, but you really need to tune into all the sounds around you. Alarm calls, distress, contact calls, shuffling through the bush. Go this way down Central. And I love working with the longer standing cameramen. The ones that have been with us a while, they are so in tune to the bush just as we are. A lot of them can track, a lot of them can really follow animals, find animals. And I love working together with someone when you're tracking. Of course, I learned a lot from Herbie and Morris. Those two men played a massive part in my development. I owe them a lot. They had the time and the patience, or they gave the time and they had the patience and energy to teach me. And learning from men like that, really, they're the best of the best. Janine, I'm actually a zoologist. So I started my life on land. I was working in the Amazon rainforest for a little while on a project over there in Ecuador. And then I decided that I wanted to specialize in marine biology. So I still did zoology. I covered all the basics, and then I wanted to do my master's in marine biology. And then I got the opportunity to go to Maldives to do my thesis, and that's naturally where my Maldivian career started. I stayed there for 7 years. It's a long time. And I'm still 21, can you believe it? And then Dive Live came up. I got the opportunity to do Dive Live, naturally working with WildEarth and working with James and Jandre and Alex and all the incredible people. And that just led to me coming here. The sort of idea was that I've already got the basics of the animal kingdom, to come here and just see the bush through fresh eyes, I guess. And what a journey it's been. I had the most incredible people teaching me along the way. Jamie Patterson, I owe a lot to her. James Hendry, and just built it from here. And sometimes it's nice to see the environment from a different perspective. I didn't really consciously decide to leave the ocean, I guess, just opportunities arose. I decided I needed a challenge. I'd been in the Maldives a very long time and I just needed a new challenge. But I miss the ocean dearly, and my recent trip to the Maldives, going back there again, felt like going home. I miss it dearly. And it's treacherous. A lot of people think the Maldives is a country, an independent country, 1,192 islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean, southwest of Sri Lanka. There's no landmass. So when they had the tsunami, there was very little damage done because there's no height, there's no continental mass. So the wave just sort of goes over the land. And yes, there was damage from the water, but it's not the impact. Obviously, tsunami wave, when it hits land, it creates a wave, but there was no land for it to hit. So the tsunami actually did very little damage in Maldives, and it's the most interesting country. The culture is incredible, and everyone thinks the ocean is like glass. It's incredibly still and easy to swim in, and it's not. We went there in the southwest monsoon. The currents are rip-roaring. You jump in the water and whoosh, the current takes you, the waves, the storms. It's not as tranquil and as calm all the time like people think. There's definitely a monsoon, which they're in right now, that makes the waters quite treacherous. I've got distracted. Yeah, this terrain's going to be impossible for me to pick up on a dainty leopard track. But let's just head this way anyway. I think the reason I love the ocean so much is it's amazing, but it's also terrifying. The ocean is terrifying. The power. The amount of unknowns in the ocean, unknown species, unknown areas, unknown zones. We don't know much about the ocean, really. We know the very surface stuff. Okay, I'm going to continue focusing now rather than getting distracted and see if I can figure out which way these cats have gone. But let's take a look at how you can spend some time at eco-training and study to be a guide.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
No luck so far, everyone. But this is Central Road, and Central... I don't know why I'm actually saying this, because it's very obvious, but Central is Central. It's the Central Road that runs through the reserve. Can you believe it? And it's a really prominent road for animals. I'm just wondering if it was Tandy that crossed back in after being in a bit of a strop from losing our hyenas. The main individuals that would use Central Road from the Torchwood side would be Tandy or Kalamba. Really. I mean, of course they can surprise you, but those are the two that will be found in this area. That's one thing you can't do in the ocean, I guess, track. You can use your knowledge to predict. You can't track. It's one of the joys the land gives you. Adrian, you are 10 years old. Wow. You want to know what I carry in my vehicle? Okay, Adrian. I carry a big box, and it used to be bigger. I actually took a lot of stuff to Joburg. It's mostly books. I get in trouble for buying so many books. I have binos, very important. I have lip balm, very important. I have nut butter for a little snack, more important than any of all of this. And then I have a lot of books. ID kits, the butterfly ID kit that I have. It's obviously not quite that time, but I always have it. And when you open it, Adrian, you can see all the butterflies. And then I have one about animal emotions, and then I have one about animal behavior. And then I have one about trees. This is fantastic. I really recommend it to anybody, by the way. Then I have this one, The Secret Network of Nature, which is also fantastic, by the same author. Then I randomly have some porcupine spines because, well, no reason, actually. I use them to point. I have some feathers. What other joys do we have? I have this amazing textbook that I just bought. I actually didn't anticipate that it would be this big. I ordered it and I was slightly horrified at how big it is. I have a pencil, and I used to have an impala horn, an elephant's tooth, a warthog's tusk, just to show you things. So really, that is what I carry. But we also have a huge first aid kit, massive first aid kit. I also carry water in a bright pink bottle. I feel like I'm advertising all these brands right now. I'm not. And coffee, an empty coffee cup. And then we have a map. I mean, I don't really use this map, to be honest. I have that map imprinted in my head, but still. And then, this is just an example of part of the first aid kit. You know, plasters, medicines, torch, all sorts of things. But our first aid kit is much, much larger than this. Sun cream for those that want to protect the skin, anti-aging, stop those wrinkles. Toilet paper, Adrian, that is also necessary for a lot of different things, not just the toilet. Wiping lenses, sneezing, tissue, anything else exciting?
Cameraman.
A cameraman. Yay, that's him. He's very important, actually. And naturally, we have a game drive radio where we can speak to him on the wrong channel. Would you look at that? We can change channels. We're on the North game, and that's game drive. And then we have a radio where we speak to the director. FC, do you copy? That's how we talk to FC. And that is really about it, to be honest. I don't think there's anything else much exciting in here. Some lip gloss. It's his, not mine. That was a great question, Adrian. Now I have all the contents of my life sprawled out in front. I don't know why I carry this many books. Sometimes if you're at a sighting and you spend a long time there, I just read. Michelle, you're saying interesting wildlife books. Yes, everyone loves my books. I really should go to Kindle and ebooks. I know that because I travel around a lot and carrying books is not a joy. But also the smell and the feel of a book, I don't know. My mother brought me up to be an avid reader. I was reading from a very young age, and she's terrible. She has this really bad habit of reading multiple books at one time. My mother will be reading anywhere between 3 to 5 books at the same time. She'll just pick one up when she's finished, and then next time pick another one up. And I have adopted that habit, and it's not good. It's actually terrible. You should focus on one book at a time. But anyway, that's the contents of the vehicle. Not so exciting. I used to have more in here. I did do a big clean out. But anyway, since I'm not doing very well at finding animals, and I am very much looking forward to the insects flourishing. I really am. To me, that's just the best thing about summer. It becomes a lot harder to find predators, but I'm also not doing a good job of that in winter. I love the insect. I love the buzz. I love the life. And a lot of us are very scared of insects, and we don't like, and we kill, and we squash, and we spray, and insects. And of course, we need to protect ourselves from mosquitoes and whatnot, but we should also try very hard to learn more about them. They're really important. We can't survive without insects, but they can survive without us, 100%. But if we wiped out every single insect on this planet, the entire global ecosystem would just collapse. We can't survive without them. Sorry, I'm just making a mental decision on which way to go. Which way should we go? I think I'm going to keep going straight into the center of the reserve. When the ground's very compacted like this, very hard terrain, it's difficult to track on the driest of days. But on the wettest of days, it's also extremely difficult, almost impossible to figure out the tracks of a teeny, tiny, petite, dainty little female leopard. But I'm going to keep bumbling on and hopefully get lucky with something. I'm going to sit here for a moment or two and listen. I've been driving and talking too much, and I need to listen. My wonderful cameraman will give you some views of the surroundings and see if we can hear anything. I'm definitely not finding anything visually, so it's time to rely on some other senses. It looks like more rain is coming. You can see it off in the distance. So we're going to drive a little bit closer to home.
Well, we've unfortunately had to head back to camp and head on to the dam cam. Rusty is once again given up the ghost. Not from a mechanical point of view, just something to do with tech. So we are back in FC and back the dam cam, just as it's starting to rain. Some impalas that are just feeding ever so lazily along the edge of the dam. And they're probably enjoying a bit of cool weather and not having to worry too much about too many things. But we'll see if we can kind of see some cool things on the camera. Maybe we'll get some nice birds after the bit of rain that we've had. Could be some interesting birds hanging around. When I first got to the dam cam there, whoever was controlling the camera at the time had beautifully framed up a yellow-billed oxpecker, which is quite interesting because we typically don't see a lot of yellow-billed oxpecker on impalas. They mostly are on buffalo. That's what we see them on 9 times out of 10. So for one to be on the impalas is pretty cool to see. The population of yellow-billed oxpeckers has definitely gotten a lot better and a lot more. In my time in the Sabi Sands, when I first started here, you were lucky if you saw one on a buffalo herd. There would be very, very few occasions where there would actually be a yellow-billed oxpecker even on the buff herds. Now, any buffalo herd that you get, you pretty much see 1 or 2 or even 5 or 6 in amongst the herd. This current buff herd that we've got now, there's lots in there. I reckon there's probably easily 15, 20 of them that hang around that herd, which is super cool. Nice to have both species of oxpecker around. But you can see this impala is starting to show very heavily now. That little swell of the tummy is getting big, so she's getting to the point now where she's going to start to feel the pressure of that little lamb, and we should be getting lambs soon. With the rains that are coming now, it's always a good indicator that we're getting to that time of the year, not because impalas give birth coinciding with rain or waiting for rain. They don't hold on to their babies for that. It's that time of the year when you start to get the rains coming in. That soon the impalas are going to give birth, and these guys normally give birth in sort of November, December, January, February, March, as late as April sometimes, but most of the time it's sort of the peak of it is that November, December period. Lots of little ones flush the system, and really, really nice to kind of see what happened. What gave you a fright? Maybe this dove that landed at the waterhole here. Sean, what is the most interesting impala predator sighting that I've seen? Ooh, a good question, Sean. I actually have never really given it much thought. I mean, I've seen some pretty crazy ones with impalas that have involved... A lot of them have actually, funny enough, involved dogs, where dogs end up chasing impalas into water. So one of the most amazing ones I had was we had a pack of wild dogs that used to hang around an area. Well, they used to be up in this northern part of the Sabi Sands. It was when I was at Chitwa. And this one morning we were we had found tracks for the dogs and then bumped into them, and we saw an impala running past, and then the dogs coming out of Londolozi going towards a dam called Big Dam. And as we got to Big Dam, we found the dogs there and this impala swimming in the dam itself. And this poor impala swam and swam and swam and swam, and it would try to get to the edge, and then the dogs would run around. And it's quite a large dam. It's probably, I would say, not quite Chitwa size, but maybe half of Chitwa. So the dogs would run around the edges the whole time. And this poor impala actually eventually swam itself to death. So it swam and swam and swam and swam, and then eventually had a heart attack and died, which was quite traumatic to watch. But what was interesting was the dogs trying to get to this impala while it was alive, and then once it had died, and then an interaction that they had with a young hippo bull. So the dogs would get to the water, and this hippo bull would come charging out at them, and then it had this standoff where it was standing out of the water and all the dogs surrounding it, and the one dog was even kind of like sniffing the hippo's nose, and then they irritated the hippo more and more and more, and then they started to try swim to get to the impala that had died in the water. And this hippo came charging out, and it was chasing the dogs all over the place, and it actually managed to grab one of the dogs And as it bit, because the dog was wet, it was almost like if you kind of pop something, it was exactly like that. The force of the mouth coming down, somehow the dog just was like a little missile. It shot out of the mouth of the hippo and managed to escape. And then the hippo started to turn its attention and its anger towards the impala that was floating around and sort of throwing it around all over the place. And then eventually the impala kind of drifted to the bank and the dogs grabbed it. But by that time, hyenas were everywhere, and it was just all-out chaos between hyenas and wild dogs. It remains one of the most ridiculous sightings I've ever seen. It was just from the interaction point of view of the hippo and the dog, and then the impala in amongst all of that. And when the impala was still alive, you'd find this hippo would sort of swim behind it and nudge it with its nose and kind of try and investigate what this thing was doing in its waterhole. It was absolutely fascinating to watch. So that one always stands out. Trying to think what else I've seen predator-wise with impalas. Funny enough, I've had very few big impala leopard sightings where the impala's alive and a leopard hunting and killing an impala. Not the big ones, at least. I've seen lots of lamb interactions. But yeah, can't really think of any others that stand out. Most of the time with impalas, unfortunately, when they get taken, that's the end of that. They don't last particularly long, especially if it's lions or dogs. They get torn apart pretty quickly by those animals. There's the obligatory Egyptian goose doing the one-legged yoga pose. I'm surprised there's not a yoga pose that is named after a bird, the stork or something like that. From this kind of pose, you see Egyptian geese doing it, you see herons. I think the Egyptian goose is advocating for that as well. You see herons and you see storks often sitting on one leg like this. What the reason is, I honestly have no idea. I don't think anyone quite knows the exact reason why. Maybe it's just to alleviate pressure on the feet and to just improve balance. I have no idea. One thing you will say about the Egyptian geese, I mean, I'm not a fan of them because they literally are like a plague. They are taking over everywhere. But what I will say is that they're actually quite pretty birds up close. You know, we often don't sit and actually look at them properly. But if you have a look, and hopefully the camera will focus nicely, they have these beautiful pink little beaks, this nice little yellow eye, and then you've got these rich kind of reds that run through their wings, or coppers is probably a better color for their wing area. And then this sort of green-blue tail that comes out, and there's a little bit of a sheen. If you get really nice light, you get a bit of iridescence that pops through in places, and then those pink legs. So actually not the worst looking bird. It's just noisy and pushing all our other ducks away, which is not nice. I haven't seen any other ducks actually in the Sabi Sands in a long time. All right, well, we'll sit here and we'll keep scanning along the dam and see what else can come our way. Wouldn't it be nice if some dogs arrived? I think that would be quite fun to watch.
If you are a Wild Earth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
The scrap here collected a dry grass put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, we're still watching our Egyptian goose. It's starting to fall asleep, but not properly because it's raining. You'll start to see the droplets forming on the wings and the back. It's probably why this bird sat down. These guys are very perceptive and know when rain is coming, and so it's gotten itself into a nice little comfy spot. Amazing how it can just sink its neck back like that and rest its beak on its own little chest and have a good nap, I think. The Impala neighbors will be a bit loud and noisy, so it won't be able to sleep well. But in this rain, I think it just wants to hunker down and enjoy a little shut-eye. Shame. Even the ducks are miserable in the rain this morning. No, I've never seen an Egyptian goose change color. You might find when they molt or they have new feathers that come through that there'll be a bit of brightness change, so a little bit more vivid in new feathers. But no, they don't change color. There's no birds that actually, that's a lie. There are birds that change color. There's those that go in eclipse plumage and then go into their breeding plumage. But yeah, Egyptian geese are not one of those. So I'm going to check if there's anything else lurking while our Egyptian goose has a little nap. Lots of sounds of birds around. I also want to see what the impalas are doing, if they're still here or if they've moved off. They often move on when it starts to rain. You'll see their coat will change a little bit from what we saw earlier, although it doesn't look like it's raining too hard anymore. I thought it was going to get a little harder because you can hear it. When it starts to rain hard, you get this pitter-patter on the camera, but none of that happening so far. And you can see their fur is not exactly matted and damp yet. It's a little bit in places, but it's not bad. I think they're still fairly dry, and the rain seems to have subsided already. Nice to see these impalas. I enjoy these guys. Puppy, as I just said, not more than 10 minutes ago. No, impalas do not wait for the rain to give birth. That is a fallacy. Their birthing period coincides with the rains normally, but they cannot hold off until such time that impala has been attacked by something. You see its leg. It's got little cut and claw marks on the leg there. Maybe hyenas try to grab it, or a leopard. But yeah, that whole thing about impalas holding off birth is no good. For an impala to be pregnant is an inconvenience and a danger to themselves, because when they are pregnant, it's much harder for them to get away from predators, and so they don't want to be pregnant and slower because it impacts their ability to survive. So they obviously carry the baby because that's naturally what they need to do, but they want it out as soon as they can get it out. It helps with them being able to, survive themselves. So holding on to it would just not work. And I'm sure many of you women that have had children know that when it's time to come, it's time to come. There's not really much you can do about it. You're not going to be able to be like, no, not today. You kind of got to, there's a natural process to things. So holding babies just because the rain doesn't come isn't really an option. So the one at the back though is heavy. Look at her. Whole tummy is distending. See the one with the little scrape on her leg? Looks like it. Just see a few little green shoots that are coming through from this rain that we've had. And impalas are taking advantage of that. All right, we'll just scan around to see what else we can find besides our impalas. In the meantime, Lauren is bumbling. I'll send you across to her.
Okay, bye. Have a good day. Sorry about that, everyone. Oh, we're live. The cameraman does not have comms, so I need to let him know we're live so we don't say anything naughty. Oh dear, oh dear. I think the buffalo here, I think that was a buffalo Tristan was actually with. And I am possibly bumping into them. I can see big black bodies up there. Looks like buffalo. But I just wanted to check Gary cut line, which has led me to here. Yeah, that's definitely buffalo. Let's go and catch up with them. We may as well. Also scanning. You know, this rock gets me every single time. Every time. 3 years later, why do I still fall for it? It looks like a sitting cat, and it's just a rock. And it's not moved, believe it or not, in 3 years, but I'm like, no, it's a rock. Okay, oh wow, lots of buff. This is the buffalo that Tristan's with. Hello, buffalo. Wow, this is a big herd. I don't know where to position. Where shall we position? Maybe here? What do you think? Swing into the right. How's that? We can work with it. I don't know why buffalo never fail to make me laugh. Their facial expressions are something else. Wow, this is a very nice herd, mixed herd. The more buffalo, the more I enjoy the sighting, purely because you get the old bulls, you get the young calves, you get the young slender females, and you get the much larger females. There's always something going on. hear them. Listen. Look at them all coming along the road. I don't know what it is. I enjoy seeing animals walk along the road. I don't know why I enjoy it. Elephants, lions, buffalo. I just love seeing them walk along a road. Sam, you're saying you love their ears like butterfly wing patterns. I've never thought of that before, but I see what you mean. The way they hang down and they've got that lighter sort of edge. I hear you, Sam. I get it. I get it. Goodness, this is never ending. I often think the young ones look like the Scottish Highland coos, which is a Highland cow to everyone else. If you've never seen one, please Google it. Your heart will melt, and I often think of the Highland coo when I see the young buffalo. Wow, this is really incredible. They're actually crossing into Buffelshoek behind us. We can't show you right now, but they're actually going back into Buffelshoek. They're currently on Djuma, but behind us they've all done a big U-turn. Why are you going into Buffelshoek, guys? It's a wonderful property, but stay on Djuma. This is just truly wonderful. I don't want to go anywhere, but even if I did, I wouldn't be able to.
Well, it's nice that Lauren get to see a herd of buffalo. They are a treat at the moment. So we're just looking up towards the sort of southwest. You can see the skies are not looking wonderful, are they? Quite dark and gloomy. Seems like more rain on its way. The wildebeest are slowly moving off. I believe they had a funny half hour and we're going a bit bonkers on the dam cam and running around like crazy. But it seems like that's all settled right down. Impalas are taking it pretty easy as well. Rain is not really falling too hard. It's all pretty civilized at this stage. But you can see the bits of green coming through. There's this bright, luminous, brand new leaf green that you see scattered around. So slowly it's happening. And we're starting to see the change in summer, which is going to be good. Always nice when we get that happening. The only problem with being on dam cam duty is that you get absolutely lambasted by mosquitoes in the FC. They all sit under the desk and then you put your feet under there. And it's like feeding your feet to a marauding pack of hyenas. I've just been absolutely destroyed by them. I forgot completely that there are so many in here. And especially in this rainy weather, a lot of them will be hiding out in this section. Is it nice and peaceful? Just looking at all the animals grazing along. I think that's pretty cool. Alrighty, well, we're going to keep looking, keep searching. Hopefully something of interest other than wildebeest and impala makes an appearance. If they don't, well, we'll just enjoy these guys, but I'm sure we can find other interesting things to look at.
We're still surrounded. Look at you guys posing. Gangsters of the bush. Ooh, that oxpecker went right up that nostril. Chewing chewing gum. Looking cool. What's up, dudes? This is actually a really nice angle. It's a low angle shot because they're at the top of a slope and we're actually down. It's a really nice way to view the buffalo. I don't know if this was the same herd Tristan had, I imagine, but it's lucky. I'm very glad we bumped into them. They are huge animals. And it was really interesting when I posted that hyena video on Instagram. A lot of you commented that, wow, like seeing the hyenas on WildEarth, we're always looking from top down. Our cameras are positioned quite high. And seeing them at a low angle, you realize how big these animals are, and that's a hyena. I think the camera sometimes takes away the ability to really engage with the size, and when you really see a buffalo walk past the car. Where are the lions, guys? I'm pretty sure you know. Ask that question from Marissa again, Gwen. Top teeth. I thought you said top feet, and I was like, I think I got that wrong. Yes, they do. They do have top teeth. Obviously, their teeth are specialized to a diet of grazing, but they do have top teeth. I think it's just a little bit tricky to see them. When they do the phlegm and grimace, which they do, it's very entertaining. But if you think about your sort of canines and incisors, each tooth type has a specialization for diet. Buffalo don't need to pierce and grab and hold and tear flesh. So their teeth are specialized as molars for an adaptation to constantly grinding the food and chewing the cud. But yes, they do have top teeth, not top feet. That's the herd mostly moving off, mostly moving behind the wellbone into Buffalo's. It's amazing how quickly a buffalo herd can move. I mean, they never really look like they're moving that fast when you watch them individually, but as a herd, they can really cover a great sort of deal of distance in one day.
Hannah, you are 9 years old. And you can start seeing the small nubbings of a buffalo's horn when it's very, very young. You'll see them starting to penetrate through the skin when it's very, very young, under 1 year old. And depending on whether it's a male or a female, the horns will grow a little bit differently. And once they're sexually mature, that's when you'll find the horns are at the full length. So it's normally up to about 5 years the horns will be at their biggest, strongest, and sort of maximum size. You can actually tell the difference between a male and female buffalo from the horns because they are different. At up to about 5 years, they'll be full length. I love it when you see the young ones and you just see the small nubbings on the top of the head of the horns starting to pop through. Ooh, wow. That's a lion injury. I think that one's been clawed. You see that? You see the claw mark at the bottom? I don't think that's a horn. Wow. Look at the oxpeckers. It will survive that one, but I mean, if infection was to set in, of course, that would compromise the immune system, but it obviously survived something. It's amazing how resilient animals are. They have literally all but disappeared. It's amazing. Entire herd crossed into Buvosuk. Okay, we're going to make a slow bumble home, see if we can see anything else along the way. I'm going to send you guys over to Tristy.
Well, hopefully something will come out for Lauren's efforts of being in the rain this morning. I'm sure she's excited to see a leopard or something like that, so hopefully one will pop out for her and give her a nice surprise. Still just kind of looking towards the south at the moment, still looking pretty bleak out there from a weather perspective. I was trying to just check this tree for a while because in this first tree, the one that's got the bark stripped off of it, in this little section here, it seems like there's two starlings that are nesting here. I've been watching them over the course of the last few weeks, and every time I drive past the camera, I see them here, but they haven't landed while I've been watching. They were there early on and then disappeared. So there's the one hole which is at the bottom of that little kind of branch. So if oh sorry guys, I don't know why it's done that. So if I just zoom in a little bit, you see there's that little hole there in front. So that's not what we're looking for. That's not where they're nesting. They're nesting up at the top on this broken section somewhere. They keep going in there and then flying out again. So I was just trying to wait for them to come back. I also saw hornbills nesting on the tree to the right, but you can't use the cam to see it. It's on the back side of the tree, and they're going in and out there, still prepping the nest. They haven't started nesting yet, but they are prepping the nest, and this rain will go a long way into getting a lot of the animals thinking about building nests and starting to lay eggs. As we saw with the spotted eagle owls, it's that time of the year for a lot of the animals to start nesting. All right, impalas and wildebeest are still just doing impala and wildebeest things. They're sitting around and enjoying some cool weather. at the dam side of things, there's not too much to go on. I haven't seen any herons or fish eagles or anything like that. I briefly saw a three-banded plover earlier, but no sign of our blacksmith lapwings. Let's have a look if they're around. There's a hornbill at the bottom there. You can see the rain that's falling. There's our blacksmith lapwing. I can see the top of its head already. Problem where the lapwing is that it's difficult from a focus point of view to actually see it. So there you can just see in those sticks there, you might see a little white head moving around. That's a blacksmith lapwing that's nesting. It's come right up against that little log, which is probably a good thing. Things like elephants shouldn't stand on that area. Their feet, they don't want their feet standing on uneven terrain. So you find that they typically are pretty happy to kind of walk around that, which is good because we don't want eggs being squashed. We had a bit of a traumatic one once before where we actually saw the little chick hatch and it was alive and well, and then a whole bunch of elephants came through and the chick was found dead in an elephant track. So the elephants obviously stood on it, which is pretty bleak. I don't think a very pleasant way to go, I'm afraid, if you're a little lapwing. Wild man, you're asking about tracking animals on rocky terrain. Do we ever do it? So in this area, not really, because we don't have a lot of rocky terrain to have to cope with. What is that? That's just a stump. I haven't noticed that before. So we don't have a lot of rocky areas here. No, it's just a mud-covered mound. Something's obviously been rubbing there and left mud all over it. Thought to myself, that's something new. So yeah, we don't really have rocks in this area to track things. But yes, you can track animals over rocks. If you go to the concession where I've had to track on rocks before quite a lot is the Lubombo concession, so Singita's concession inside the Kruger National Park. They have a lot of rocks on the Lubombo mountains there, so you've got to learn how to track in amongst those. The nice thing is that any rocky section will have gaps in the rocks, and you can pick up things from that, and you can also see where rocks have moved and shifted, so that also helps with those kinds of things. Oh, hello. But it's much harder tracking over the rocks than it is on this beautiful soft substrate that we get here in the Sabi sands. It's the quietest Egyptian goose landing I've seen in a long time. All right, we'll keep looking, keep hoping. Maybe something is going to come down and change our luck on the camera.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
either francolin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We are heading back for breakfast. I'm not going to lie to you all. It is that time of day where we get our breakfast. It's very exciting. But of course, it's the end of the morning drive. Definitely not been a lucky one on my front, but it's nice to be out and explore once again. I'm hoping the weather just gets better. There's promise of blue sky on this side, and there's promise of something entirely different on this side. So we'll just need to wait and see how the afternoon plays out. And I think that leopardess cut up rather than going along central. I think she cut into the block and possibly went up Buffalo way. So that leaves a little bit of promise for the afternoon. And of course the buffaloes have gone into Buffelshoek. Many of you are hoping I get tracks. I don't want tracks. I want the animals. No, I'm joking. Tracks would be wonderful. Especially if it doesn't rain, if the ground starts to dry up just a little bit more, it'll make tracking a different experience. Just trying to figure out where everyone is. I want to catch up with Mr. Maribs. I had some of the most incredible sightings with him last time. He is one habituated cat, and we're very, very lucky for that. There was a point where I didn't think he would be that habituated, and he seems to just love the vehicles. And it's only been 6 weeks, but I'm more than sure that he's got even bigger. Young male leopards grow so fast. And I've not met Tortoise Man yet, can you believe it? I am still yet to meet this male. I think everybody's met him. And I'm jealous. Okay, we're almost at quarantine. Buatela access is a sort of main road for vehicles, but it's also a main access road for animals. It's one of the best roads to check in the morning, Buatela access. Okay, we will stop and give you some last minute views of good old quarantine. There you go, this is where we started. Except there's no Impala and no wildebeest. But almost exactly where we started this morning. Such a beautiful wide open space. Definitely my favorite part of the reserve. I used to always debate that, but I've come to learn it's definitely quarantine. So everyone, it brings us to a close of the sunrise safari, but as you all know, we shall be out this afternoon. Hopefully both Tristan and I will be out, so please do jump on board.